So picture a modern financial regulator, right? Walking into a corporation.
Oh,
For decades, the assumption was always that they were there to inspect, well, a physical object.
right, like a dusty binder.
Exactly, a dusty binder of corporate red tape, or, endless meeting minutes about compliance, or those massive rule books that
Well,
just,
they just sit on a shelf and gather dust.
right. But based on the stack of source material we are looking at today, that era is entirely over. Regulators, they aren't looking for your binder anymore. They are looking for your organization's central nervous system.
That is a great way to put it.
Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are analyzing the official course details and syllabus for the International Compliance Association's Specialist Certificate in Corporate Governance.
Specifically, their level 2 qualification, yeah.
Right. And our mission today, for you listening, is to decode what good governance actually entails in the modern corporate world. And we want to figure out how mastering these specific frameworks acts as a shortcut to professional agility for you.
Which is huge right now.
It is, because whether you are, a new entrant prepping for a massive structural shift in your industry, or maybe a manager looking to catch up on the field, the way regulators view governance has fundamentally changed. And this course is essentially the blueprint for that change.
It really is. And that shift you mentioned from a static rule book to a dynamic nervous system, that's the absolute core of what this material represents.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is explicitly pointed out in these materials is that regulators today actively view effective corporate governance mechanisms as the primary indicator of a firm's internal culture.
Wait, they use governance to measure culture.
Yes, they do not separate the two anymore. When a regulator looks at a governance framework, they are basically trying to see a reflection of the organization's soul.
Wow.
If the governance structures are robust and responsive and, actually utilize regulators, assume it reflects a positive, compliant internal culture, the framework is the physical manifestation of how the corporate body behaves, reacts, and ultimately survives under pressure.
That is a massive operational shift.
Completely.
Because if regulators are looking at governance to understand a company's soul, we need to understand what pieces actually make up that culture.
Right.
And looking at the syllabus, it's interesting. It doesn't start with tax codes or regulatory statutes.
No, not at all.
It starts at the very root, like the function and purpose of the organization, and specifically the purpose of the board of directors.
Yeah, at the very top.
Right. And from there, it moves into the importance, the impact, and the opportunity of organizational culture. But, okay, I have to push back a little on this concept of teaching culture.
Okay, let's hear it.
You can give someone an org chart, right? You can teach them the fiduciary duties of a board member. But how do you actually teach culture via an online certification? It feels like trying to nail jelly to a wall. It's usually this completely abstract concept.
Well, what's fascinating here is that the curriculum actually strips away that abstract, motivational poster version of culture entirely.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it treats culture as a mechanical output of governance.
A mechanical output. Okay, explain that.
So the syllabus is structured to explore the specific frameworks that align with a firm's objectives. It teaches that a board of directors doesn't just sit at the top making financial declarations. They are the literal architects of the culture.
Right.
And they build it through very specific mechanisms. Let's look at how that actually works in practice. A board sets the culture through, say, the reporting thresholds they establish.
Okay.
Or the specific metrics they demand to see on their quarterly dashboards, or the compensation structures they approve.
Oh, I see. So if a board only ever asks the executive team to report on quarterly sales volume,
Right.
and they never request data on customer complaints or employee turnover,
Exactly.
then they are mechanically engineering a culture that prioritizes rapid revenue over long-term stability or risk management.
Precisely. You nailed it. The syllabus transforms culture into a measurable success factor by focusing on those exact mechanisms. By studying how governance frameworks enhance or degrade performance, the student is learning to evaluate the actual gears and levers of culture.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, you aren't being tested on whether a company is, quote-unquote, nice or innovative.
Yeah.
You are being tested on whether the communication lines from the board all the way down to the operational floor are structured in a way that aligns with the stated purpose of the organization.
Which makes the intangible suddenly very tangible.
Exactly.
You are learning the structural engineering behind human behavior in a corporate setting. But, that brings us to a really crucial friction point.
What's that?
Well, We can design the perfect structural engineering on paper, right? But eventually, that structure has to deal with actual human beings.
Always the wild card.
Always. And the syllabus actually progresses from the ideal state of purpose and culture straight into the messy reality of power dynamics.
Yes, it does.
It covers conflict management, organizational hierarchy, policy frameworks, and then, and here's where it gets really interesting, it pairs internal control with a concept called influence power.
That is a huge section.
It sounds like corporate sociology. I mean, studying influence power alongside conflict management, it implies that there is the official way things get done, and then there is the invisible weather system that dictates how things actually get done.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Mm-hmm.
understanding that invisible weather system is literally the only way to achieve effective risk management.
This risk management is a core goal of the course, right?
Exactly. You cannot manage organizational risk if your internal controls are based purely on a theoretical org chart while completely ignoring who actually holds the influence.
Okay, give me an example. How does this play out operationally?
Let's construct a scenario. Imagine a firm rolls out a comprehensive, board-approved data compliance policy.
Okay, standard stuff.
Right. The formal governance states that all new software vendor approvals must go through a centralized digital portal managed by the compliance team.
Which, looks perfectly sound on the official policy framework.
On paper, it is flawless. But in reality, let's say the director of operations, who has been with the firm for 15 years, possesses massive informal influence power.
Ah, okay. I see where this is going.
They have personal relationships with legacy vendors, and they have a very close working relationship with the chief financial officer. So when the operations director needs a new software tool quickly, they don't use the portal.
Let me guess. They bypass it completely.
Yep. They text the CFO directly for budget approval, and they just implement the software.
Wow.
Now, if a governance professional only understands the official hierarchy, they will mark that department as compliant.
Because the policy was officially distributed.
Exactly. Box checked.
But the actual risk profile is massive because the internal control has a text message-sized hole in it.
Precisely. So the course is training you to identify those nodes of informal power. You have to map out the real communication strategies, not just the mandated ones.
That is the exact mechanism being taught.
Yes. The curriculum forces the learner to evaluate conflict management and influence power as critical data points for internal control. When the official policy clashes with the informal influence power, you get conflict.
Right.
And managing that conflict doesn't just mean mediating a disagreement between two employees. It means restructuring the governance framework so that the internal controls actually account for the real-world communication flows.
You have to align the formal structure with the informal reality to protect the firm.
Exactly.
That reframes the entire role of a compliance or governance officer. You aren't just an enforcer of a static rulebook anymore. You are an active manager of organizational behavior.
It's a much more dynamic role.
But just as we establish how governance manages human friction and structural power, the source material introduces a massive external disruptor, one that forces all of those human structures to mutate.
The digital revolution.
Yes, technology. The syllabus dedicates a significant section to this.
And it is a vital inclusion. It changes the operational landscape completely. The course explicitly trains learners to evaluate the impacts of digital enhancements on governance, and this is key to anticipate future developments.
Right. It recognizes that the digital revolution fundamentally alters those internal controls and communication strategies we just mapped out.
Exactly.
But I have to question the phrasing here. Anticipating future developments.
Okay, why is that?
Well, in my experience, compliance and governance almost always operate in a reactionary state.
That's historically true, yeah.
Right. A new technology emerges, it disrupts the market, it creates a new risk, and then, 2 years later, a governance framework is finally drafted to address it. So how can a syllabus realistically train professionals to govern systems that haven't even been fully adopted yet? Are we talking about AI taking over the board of directors?
It achieves this by focusing on the underlying framework vulnerabilities rather than specific software brands. You do not need to know the exact coding architecture of a future AI tool to govern it.
Okay.
You need to know how automated decision-making fundamentally shifts accountability. Let's look at how the digital revolution disrupts the influence power scenario we discussed earlier.
The ops director texting the CFO.
Right. In a traditional office, influence power is often built on physical proximity. Who sits near the executive suite?
Mm.
who attends the physical meetings.
Who gets coffee with who?
Exactly. But in a globally distributed, asynchronous, fully remote environment, influence power shifts entirely.
Oh, wow. It shifts to whoever controls the digital infrastructure.
Yes.
Like the person who manages the administrative rights to the encrypted messaging apps or the cloud architecture. Suddenly they hold a disproportionate amount of influence power.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Furthermore, internal controls historically relied on periodic snapshot audits. You would check the ledger at the end of the quarter, right? But digital enhancements allow capital and data to move globally in microseconds. A modern governance professional must evaluate how to shift from static audits to continuous automated monitoring.
Okay, I see.
By training you to anticipate these developments, the curriculum is essentially teaching you stress testing methodologies. You are evaluating where the organization's central nervous system is most vulnerable to a digital shock before the shock actually occurs.
So you are learning to govern the speed of the data, not just the data itself.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've spent all this time talking about the massive intellectual weight of this material. Mapping informal power, architecting culture, anticipating algorithmic risks.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Right.
And for you, the listener, the obvious question becomes, how on earth is this actually taught? What is the practical mechanism for absorbing a curriculum this dense without, putting your actual career on hold?
Right, because nobody has time for that.
Exactly.
Well, the structural logistics of the course are built specifically for professionals who cannot afford to pause their careers.
Oh.
The format is highly compressed, but it retains significant academic weight. It is awarded in association with Alliance Manchester Business School at the University of Manchester.
Which is huge.
It is. It provides a layer of rigorous, globally recognized prestige. And for professionals managing their continuing education requirements, it also grants 20 hours of continuing professional development, or CPD, for the International Compliance Association.
The association with a major university is a critical differentiator to me. It separates this from a standard corporate training module and grounds it in actual academic methodology.
Definitely.
But looking at the timeline, the flexibility is really striking. It is entirely self-paced. The literature notes that a dedicated learner can sprint through the material in as little as 4 weeks.
Though you do have access to the platform for up to 2 months.
Right, you get 2 months. And the assessment methodology, I love this, it avoids the traditional massive final exam anxiety. It culminates in a single 1-hour online multiple choice exam that you can trigger at any point during your access window.
Yes, whenever you're ready.
And the results are immediate. The certification, which grants the designation spec.cert, corp.gov, is instantly downloadable.
That speedy completion is vital for the target demographic. The course explicitly caters to a wide spectrum of the corporate hierarchy.
Who is the ideal student here?
It is designed for new entrants and operations staff who need to quickly decipher the unwritten rules of corporate structure, all the way up to officers, specialists, analysts, and managers who are actually tasked with designing these frameworks.
So it's a wide net.
Very wide. The overarching goal across all those roles is increasing professional agility.
I want to dig into how that agility is actually built during those 4 to 8 weeks. To me, this format sounds like a high-intensity interval training workout, like a HIIT workout for your career.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Thanks. Because you can sprint through it in 4 weeks, take a 1-hour multiple choice exam, and suddenly you have a lifelong qualification from a major university. But I was looking at the student testimonials provided in the source material, and they offer some great insights into the pedagogical approach here.
What stood out to you?
A recurring piece of feedback is praise for the inclusion of sub-quizzes throughout the modules. Now, from a learning perspective, that is essential.
Absolutely.
Because moving through complex material like influence power mapping without any formative assessment is dangerous. You might misunderstand a core concept in week 1 and not realize it until the final exam.
Right, and by then it's too late.
Exactly. These sub-quizzes act as continuous feedback loops. They ensure you actually comprehend the mechanics of the framework before moving to the next level of complexity.
It forces active engagement rather than passive reading. And the testimonials also heavily highlight the quality of the information and the use of reputable external sources. One student specifically noted that the course provides a map to dig deeper into specific subjects.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. This indicates that while the course can be completed quickly, it is not superficial. It equips you with the immediate frameworks required to pass the assessment, but it also functions as a long-term reference library.
Which is so valuable.
And this ties into the broader professional ecosystem the International Compliance Association provides.
Oh, right, because of the costs and the membership. Let's break that down really quick. The course fee is roughly 730 British pounds.
Or about 803 euros.
Right, or around 949 US dollars. But enrolling as a non-member automatically includes a mandatory 12-month membership fee to the International Compliance Association.
Right, which is an additional 185 pounds.
Or 204 euros, or
Wow.
241 US dollars. But that membership, it isn't just a magazine subscription. It integrates you into an international community of over 30,000 members.
It's a massive network.
It really is. You gain access to their uniquely personalized learning hub, weekly webinars that track live industry developments, and significant discounts on further specialized courses. You aren't just absorbing a 4-week curriculum, you are plugging yourself into a continuous stream of updated intelligence.
Which seems mandatory when you're dealing with a landscape disrupted daily by the digital revolution.
Exactly.
The ongoing ecosystem is a significant part of the value proposition. However, when evaluating the ultimate return on investment for the learner, there was one specific quote from a past student in the source material that captures the absolute essence of why this knowledge is necessary.
Oh, what did they say?
The student stated that they learned how important aspects of corporate governance, if overlooked, can have, and this is a direct quote, detrimental effects on the growth of a company.
Detrimental effects on the growth of a company.
Yes, that specific phrase redefines the entire discipline. The core value of mastering this curriculum is not merely defensive compliance. It is the ability to spot the structural flaws that will eventually throttle a company's ability to scale.
Wow. Okay, so let's pull all of this together and look at the complete picture. We started today by fundamentally reframing how we view governance.
Right.
We moved away from the outdated concept of administrative red tape and established that regulators actively evaluate your internal policies as the truest reflection of your corporate culture.
The central nervous system.
Exactly. From there, we explored the actual mechanics of the syllabus. We examined how a board of directors engineers culture through objectives and reporting lines.
Yeah.
We navigated the sociology of the modern office, detailing how you have to map out informal influence power like the text message loophole to prevent massive vulnerabilities in your internal controls.
A critical skill.
We tackled the digital revolution, noting that modern professionals must anticipate how technological infrastructure alters accountability and influence. And finally, we broke down the agile, self-paced format of the ICA Specialist Certificate, a highly efficient mechanism to gain university-backed credentials and integrate into a global professional network.
It is an incredibly dense synthesis of organizational behavior, structural engineering, and strategic foresight, built into a format that really respects the learner's time.
It really is a masterclass in operational realities, and for you, the listener, the through line here is clarity. Whether you are trying to navigate the hidden power structures of a new department, or you are an executive trying to ensure your digital transformation doesn't accidentally destroy your internal controls, understanding these frameworks is the key to professional leverage.
Absolutely.
You cannot effectively steer a massive organization if you do not understand the mechanics of the underlying nervous system.
This raises an important question, and it is something you should deeply consider as you apply these concepts to your own career.
Okay, lay it on us.
We have historically conditioned ourselves to view corporate governance, policy frameworks, and compliance strictly as defensive mechanisms.
Right.
We think of them as shields, structures designed solely to protect the company from regulatory fines, to mitigate risk, or to stop rogue elements from causing operational harm. But if we truly internalize what that past student observed, that bad governance actively stifles and degrades growth, we have to flip that paradigm. Is it possible that the deepest, truest purpose of good governance is actually offensive?
Oh, that completely inverts the traditional mindset.
Doesn't it?
Yeah. If we think about it mechanically, the primary purpose of having incredibly reliable, highly engineered brakes on a high-performance vehicle isn't just to stop the car.
Right.
The reliability of the brakes is the specific mechanism that allows the driver to comfortably and safely push the car to its absolute maximum speed on the straightaways. Good governance isn't the friction that slows the company down. It is the structural integrity that allows the company to take aggressive, innovative risks without tearing itself apart.
Precisely. A healthy, responsive central nervous system does not just react to pain. It coordinates complex forward momentum. When you master the mechanics of influence power, when you align your board's objectives with the realities of the digital revolution, you are not just building a better shield. You are building an engine that can safely handle a much higher velocity of growth.
That is a brilliant shift in perspective and honestly the exact right place for us to wrap up this analysis.
I agree.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Take that question with you as you log back into your day-to-day work. Look at the official policies, the invisible influence power, and the cultural mechanics operating in your own organization. Ask yourself honestly, is your governance framework currently playing defense, or is it structurally prepared to go on the offense? Keep questioning the frameworks around you. Until next time.